Should I start this video with a skit or something? Nah. Oh wait, does this count? Can I be honest with you all for a second? This topic was originally something I planned on covering briefly in a larger video that I've been working and reworking for a while now. The video I'm working on would detail my concept of what the perfect Nintendo Switch succeeding console would look like. I'm still working on that video, and maybe it'll be done before this year is over, but I'm making this video now because I think that this topic alone is just that important. Earlier today, at time of writing this script, I was working out while listening to an old video Arlo did before the Switch launch titled, How the Switch Could Ruin Everything. One of the points he touched upon was that of the Switch absolutely needing to launch with at least the most notable titles they have from NES to N64. It's funny and perhaps a bit sad looking back now at what is currently the Switch's 4th year going on 5th, and seeing that the Virtual Console idea has been entirely scrapped and replaced with a couple apps for online subscribers that offer a paltry amount of NES and SNES games and nothing else. This is, of course, subject to change at any time, and I'm sure Nintendo will wait until the Switch is very nearly done being supported to finally give it at least Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games, but speaking as a physical game collector, retro enthusiast, supporter of emulation, follower of game news, subscriber of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and of course, fan of Nintendo, I strongly feel that now, right now, more so than any time before it even, is the time at which people want more access to more types of games from previous systems. Obviously, a big contributing factor to all of this was the whole poison mushroom pandemic that manifested last year, and that likely spurred many people's interest in returning to their past hobbies, what with all the newly found free time to stay indoors. But even aside from that, do you remember that thing that happened in the mid to late 2000s and the early 2010s? When there was just this huge boom of retro gaming nostalgia? Classic arcade, Atari, NES, SNES, etc. games, they were all being revived. Stores suddenly found Pac-Man, Joust, Mega Man, and Rampage merchandise filling up the shelves. And while I myself wasn't old enough to be privy to it, it's my understanding that there was also something of a boom in the retro collecting economy too. At that time, those games were roughly between 20 to 30 years old. So now let me ask you, in this current time at which this video has been posted, what years were it exactly 20 to 30 years ago from today? That's right, the 90s and 2000s. Whatever mania possessed the gaming public from 2005 to 2015 to get back into the NES is now giving the gaming public of 2021 a hunger for the GameCube. I mean, heck, just look at some of the games that have come out / are coming out this year. New Pokemon Snap, Psychonauts 2, WarioWare Get It Together, Advance Wars Reboot Camp, and even new games and long-running series like Resident Evil and Metroid are taking massive cues from their early 2000s entries. In a market that is now oversaturated with games designed to get people addicted, or squeeze as much money as possible out of them, or do Lord anything to make sure you play them and not the thousands of other options available, more and more people want to return to the straightforward fun they had as children. Pop in a game and play it. Simple as. A major struggle such players are facing, however, is that games from this era are super expensive. If you look at the sold listings for GameCube or GBA or even DS and Wii games on eBay, you'll find that people are demanding way too much money for these nostalgic commodities. Of course, customers who don't like this secondhand market tactic could always simply turn to free unofficial emulators, which are perfectly legal, mind you, and, stumble upon the games compatible with them while seeking chests of gold off the coast of Morocco under a masked Spartan, a skull and crossbones. Yar, har, 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 har. But not all people who belong to this 2000s game-wanting demographic are familiar with that sort of thing. Not that it's terribly complicated, but that's beside the point. Obviously, all I presented here make a strong case for Nintendo to simply just make games available on the Switch, but I think this conversation should extend beyond that. A lot of people mount a defense for Nintendo's lackluster retro online apps by suggesting that they'll carry over onto all future platforms, and the libraries will increase gradually over time. But even if that does indeed end up being the case, remember it could also just not be. Nintendo will Nintendo after all. I don't think the service they currently offer does enough for the customers. If you look at a service like Xbox Game Pass, Nintendo Switch's online classic game offerings are pitiful by comparison. I know, NSO is much cheaper at only $20 a year while Game Pass is $15 a month, but even still, there are some qualities and options present within Game Pass that I believe Nintendo should adopt. For one thing, every game available on Game Pass can be purchased separately and for keeps. And the variety of games offered extends from OG Xbox to Xbox 360 to, most prominently, the current Xbox One and Series X titles. I don't expect Nintendo to offer any kind of subscription service that lets people play their current AAA games, but their classic titles should be a different story. There are no NES or SNES games currently offered through NSO that I would even want to own separately, or at least not digitally, but there are plenty of N64, GameCube, and even Wii games I would. Or at least, most would. Like I said, I'm a sucker for physical. But surely such a value proposition would cost more than $20 a year, right? Not to mention the later into the generations we venture, the more spacious the games become. Would the Nintendo Switch even be capable of running a dedicated app that in turn could instantly load up GameCube games with no issues? I honestly don't know. But my gut tells me no. So here's my idea for a compromise. Make these games available on the eShop, no fuss. But give them a dedicated section called Nintendo Classics, or something to that effect. It's Virtual Console, but not Virtual Console, you get the idea. And in addition to that, offer a higher payment tier for NSO members that grant them the ability to download and play those games for free. Well, not free, because you have to pay the monthly fee for it, but you know what I mean. Doing this would be convenient for those wanting to play these games, and a fair value to boot. Implementing online multiplayer into some, if not most of these games would likely be a challenge, but hey, that's why those dedicated NES and SNES apps exist, right? Surely Nintendo's been working on one for the Game Boy and the N64 and maybe even beyond. So now Nintendo can continue that slow trickle at whatever agonizingly slow pace they're going at right now, while in the meantime, those of us who do more single player anyway, or can arrange to do local multiplayer, will be satiated. Clearly the system I'm proposing isn't perfect, but it's leagues better than what we have right now. And hey, maybe as technology improves and Nintendo's next console comes along, the entirety of the whole Nintendo Switch's eShop can come along with it, including all the classic games and their affiliated NSO subscription offerings I've proposed for this revamped system. That'd certainly be preferred over Nintendo's old method of simply starting from scratch with each console's online store, and preferred even still over this perpetuated idea that the dedicated classic game apps will carry over from system to system, presumably independently from the eShop itself. Nintendo have some of the absolute best retro games of all time. Yet their handling of those games' distribution is some of the worst in the whole industry right now. Nintendo has got to make these games more accessible, and at fair prices, and soon, and how? Well, that's just about everything I wanted to cover in this video. Seems a little short. Maybe I should do a skit or something to close it out, add some entertainment value, and pad the runtime.
No! Don't do that. That would be very, very cringy and lame.
Fool that you are, PNG image file of Captain Douglas J. Falcon as he appears in Super Smash Bros. Melee for the Nintendo GameCube. By merely being present, you have made us get manifest in this exchange.
On the contrary, it'd be a skit even if you did it all by yourself. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in the ring and maybe get a couple lines in edgewise.
Well, that's 2 pennies you're never getting back, Buster Brown. Now go hover in the corner and think about what you've done.
No, don't wanna.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching this video, especially to the end. That means a lot to me, you've got no idea. Please like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for more videos like this, and share this video or my channel on social media should you feel so inclined. It really helps me out. But what helps me out even more so than YouTube itself does in fact, is pledging as little as $1 a month to my Patreon page. All patrons get behind-the-scenes updates on what I'm working on and a credit at the end of my videos like you see here. Thank you again for watching. I've been A Talking Sock, and I will see you the next time I see you.